Alrighty class, you guys are definitely in for a good learning experience today. So basically, we're going to start off by just kind of giving you basically just a little overlook of our objectives that we got going on today for our Rosie the Riveter and women's role in the workforce during World War II. So our objectives, we want you guys to be able to understand the roles of women pre-war, during war, and post-war. Also, we want to be able you guys to articulate the changes in society due to World War II and really how they impacted the war effort in our country as a whole. And basically, what you're going to get out of our activity today is you should be able to, at the end, assert those new vocabularies that we have for you into the context of our lesson and into the context of our role play, so you really get a full understanding of the women's impact of in society and in the workforce and in the economy ultimately during World War II.
Alright, so before we begin vocab, I just want to hand out the first role play. So it's going to be the pre-war. If I could get some volunteers for positions and stuff. As many as we can get, that'd be awesome. There's two positions that have only like 2 lines, so.
I'm Sam here.
No, you're Susan. I'm Janet.
There's like a combination of people on the top, and then there's just one more. Oh, sweet.
Because, like, nobody, I'm just saying.
No one's here to judge, right?
Oh, I'm Billy.
Review the scripts, kind of get an idea of what you're talking about, who you are in the play, and just give it your best and have some fun when we're doing this.
Yeah, so now we got some vocab we're going to look at. Not all these words are going to be exactly defined, you guys, but as we go through the different role plays, we want you guys to kind of be aware of the context of how they're used. We'll talk about them after each role play, kind of how they were used, so we want you guys to be just kind of aware and be ready for those. So the words will be opportunity cost, labor force rate, marriage bars, scarcity, rally behind the flag effect, Rosie the Riveter, war bonds, and propaganda. So just be ready for those words. Kind of like see how those go through the role plays and be ready to talk about them at the end.
So again, the scene 1 is going to be pre-war, so this is before World War II. Just some ideas and concepts that are happening right now. This is going to be the year 1938. So some concepts are the labor force is mainly dominated by men due to traditional norms of a one person in the family working. And we all know that usually was men that was the only one that was working, while the wife stayed at home and took care of the kids in the house. Another thing is, if women were to get a job at this time, they were usually clerical, and clerical is office work, nursing, like a typist, bookkeeping. And then the third point for this scene is marriage bars. So when women got the job, or they were trying to get a job, marriage bars was a practice that was occurring at that time that really prevented women that were married from working or keeping a job. That's just the ideas of that time. So that's really quick. And then now, just as USA as a whole, the unemployment rate is still high with 19% of the people not working. The economy itself is starting to get back to back to the 1929 kind of healthy, but around 1938, mid-1938, there was a 13-month recession, so we kind of went back down and went into a hiccup again. So that's where, when our role play is at, a lot of our characters kind of think about like, okay, I'm in 1938, there's a recession, I need a job, or I'm trying to make money right now. And then the third thing is, so for all of our role plays, it consists in the Ford Motors. So it's the same company, and when we're going through, I want you guys to kind of look at the transition of Ford Motors through the pre-war, during war, and after war. So just for a pre-war right now, the Ford Motors company was trying to bounce back from the mid-recession in 1938 by producing only 2 new models, the V8 truck and the Model 81A Mercury sedan. I don't know if many have heard of the Mercury sedan. It's a pretty popular car. That's it right there. These are some advertisements. That's what it is right now. And at that time, it was $766. And for right now, like if we were to bring that back, it would be $12,842. It was the most popular car that Ford Motors was producing right now. So that's what my characters in the roleplay 1 will be reenacting, is they're going to be building this car, and then there's some other office work that's going to happen as well. So if I could get everyone from scene 1 to come up here.
While you guys are kind of doing that transition, I'm going to pass out our activity for scene 2, so I'm going to need some volunteers for that.
Yeah. Any questions on
Yep. And you got it.
Do you want me to
Anybody else? Any other scene?
Sorry.
Talk me through.
No. I'm like.
Someone's gonna have
I'm gonna
go to Mark.
Mark? I got no, you could be.
Billy, Susan,
You guys have any questions at all about your role plays or
I'm
your,
Janet. Janet. Do I have to do that?
you want to make it
Something
simple?
Janet would do.
all right.
You don't have to.
Yes.
But
You have
just
to.
kind of,
No,
I made
yeah,
it
no.
phonetically, like,
I don't have that.
sound a certain way, so like, if you guys are picking
I
up
don't
on
have that like,
okay.
you know, Janet's
But,
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's like, that's kind
Alright, you guys ready? We got scene 1, so I need you guys' full attention and just kind of get some points out of this and analyze some of the different characters and what they're about. So if we could initially just get everyone's role and just kind of give that description that's right next to it, who you are, to kind of give the audience an idea of your character. You want to try?
Okay. I'm Susan. I'm like 35 years old, and I am not married.
I am Margaret. I am in my mid-20s, and I just got married.
I'm Janet, and I'm young, and in my 20s, and not married.
I'm the boss. I'm in my mid-40s and married.
I'm Billy. I'm in my mid-30s and just got married.
And then I'll be John Johnson, a middle-aged man with a family. I'm a hard-working man, so. You want to start?
Nice work. Nice work. If you work at this rate, Joe, for sure reach our target production for the week. Time is money.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Janet, any appointments for the day?
Just the 2 job interviews for today.
2, really? I don't have time.
They're waiting for you, sir.
Well, all right. Send them in my office.
Susan, the boss is waiting for you.
All right, thanks. Wish me luck. Hello, sir.
I've heard please.
Thank you.
Give me a second. So what can I do for you?
I was hoping I could get a job here.
Well, I already have a receptionist, and she already works full time.
Yes, well, I was thinking you could put me on the line, build some of those sedans.
Really? Ma'am, some of those parts are up to 200 pounds. I need strong men to do some of the difficult tasks on the line. Can't really have you out there where you could get hurt. Even if you were doing one of the minor tasks, you wouldn't be able to keep up with the line. And that would slow down my production. Now, yeah, go work clerical or something. I'm sorry. Janet, can you get Margaret?
Hi there, boss. You wanting to see me?
Yes. When I was walking by the line this morning, I noticed something on your hand.
Oh, yes, sir. That's my ring. I just got married this past weekend. Do you like it, sir?
Why, yes, congratulations. But I'm gonna have to let you go.
But I've been keeping up with production. I need the money to help feed my kids.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sorry, but I have to let you go. Hopefully, your husband can make the rest of the money. Jan, send the next one in.
Billy. Waha, sir.
Hello there, son. What can I do for you?
I'm looking for a job here, sir. I actually just got married and need to start making some money if I'm gonna want to have a family.
Congratulations on getting married. I see where you're coming from. Can you lift a lot of weight?
Yes, sir. I can work the full time, sir.
All right, congrats, Billy. Welcome to Ford's Motors.
Thank you, sir.
Wow. Dang, that was a class A acting there. Shakespeare, why not? Nice job. Thank you guys for volunteering.
Only took us 5 minutes to stop and back.
That's all right. I'm fine. So, great job again. And now I just want to follow up with some quick discussion questions about that skit if you guys if you paid attention to that. So my first question is, how did the cultural norms and generalizations affect women in the workforce when even getting a job? Can anyone answer that? Any idea from that skit? Yeah?
Well, they went by if you were married or not,
Yeah.
and if you were wanting to be on the production line, you weren't going to be on the production line normally.
Yeah, they had the idea that women were not fit for the production line. They weren't man enough, they weren't strong enough, they weren't fast enough. That was just some of the norms at that time. And you brought up marriage, so another question is, marriage bars was an example in that skit. Does anyone want to give me a definition of what marriage bars is or was? So in that example, I think it was Margaret, she just got married. And because she just got married, she got let go. Nothing else. She kept up with production, and she was doing everything right except she got married. And so that idea of marriage bars was the practice of restricting the employment of married women in general or in particular professional occupations. And a lot of the time it caused the termination of employment just because they got married. So thinking about that, how would you guys feel if that would happen if you got married? Would you pick a career over marriage, or would you pick your marriage over a career? That's a huge question that some women faced at that time. I don't know how about you guys, but that would be a very tough decision for me if I was a lady and I had to choose either the love of my life or the career of my life. You know, that's a hard decision. What do you guys think? Is that something that would be hard for you too, or would that be an easy answer? Or? Choose love. That's it, yeah, love. That's awesome. But yeah, so thanks again for everyone that did that first skit. Spencer's going to start with the next one.
So everyone that played a male character and people that are part of the second role play, I'm going to need you up in the front for me quick.
And then while that's happening, can I get volunteers for the third skit, please? You can do the first and third one. It's different characters.
So just two people from that last skit just come up here real quick. You're only going to be there for a third skit.
Okay. Skit 3 volunteers. Yep. So then you'll be woman 5. Thank you.
Okay, so someone else will stay on.
Yeah.
Alright, so quickly guys, I'm just going to run through. Alright, if I can have everyone's attention please.
I'm not going to put one.
You guys can listen up real quick. We're going to move on to our second role play. So basically, I'm just going to give you guys a little preview of the second scene. So just to put it in context, basically 1939, Great Britain and France declared war on Germany. Essentially, the United States was supporting their allies. You know, they didn't want to be fully caught up in the conflict due to political reasons, economic reasons. So basically, we were just kind of, sending the smallest amount of aid, not really sending any men yet. December 1941, the United States enters World War II. This ultimately, within the first year, begins women's role in contributing to the workforce. The United States also began printing and broadcasting and promoting different sorts of propaganda for the war effort. As you can see, Rosie the Riveter was one of the major women's idols and propaganda tools used to kind of create that morale for the war. Some of the vocab words you guys are going to see during this skit are the war bonds, propaganda, and how to rally behind the flag. All right. Listen up, team. John, Steve, Joe, give me a salute. You men are no longer employed here doing the war raging across the pond. See ya, get out of here. You're off, go to war. Go, they need you there. Go. This leaves me short-handed on the assembly line with Uncle Sam demanding all that he needs, like them B-52s and B-24 bombers. There's no way I'll be able to keep up with demand. Especially if my only options for workers are women. Mary, starting today, you will now be promoted to assembly line worker. Now to hire more employees. Congrats, boys, you're hired. Girls. I'm using it as a general term. Boys, guys, people. Alright.
Gee, working on the assembly line? Is he serious? There's no way I'll be strong enough to do this hard old labor, Linda.
Oh, Mary, that's just the power of technology. It's not so bad, and the country needs us to do our part too. Since my hubby is off to war, I took all the cans of food I could from the house and donated it.
Good for you, Linda. Some of us have children, though, and my boys need to eat. I hardly get to see them lately. I'm exhausted. Mary, have you gotten used to assembly line life?
The raise is nice and the hours aren't bad. It's just my son and I at home, so I have lots of time to see him.
I don't remember the last day I wasn't at work. Yesterday I had the chance to leave work early, but I turned it down because I really, really need the money. My boys are too young to work or fight, so I have to pay a babysitter every day to watch them.
It was a good idea for my hubby and I to wait to have our first child until after the war. If I had to support myself plus children, I would have never been able to buy those war bonds from Uncle Sam. Buying war bonds is like buying my hubby a nice hot turkey meal. You know what they say, buy war bonds, let's all fight.
So a few months passed, these ladies begin to, get accustomed to the work they're doing and ultimately, kind of starting to help out in the war effort, We saw examples here like they were buying war bonds and basically they were using those as tools to kind of influence and send love and care and really help out the guys over across the pond there. So basically, a few months pass here, and we'll just hop right back into our office here. Libby, I need to speak to you for a moment. I just received a word that you'd like to hear. If you could come here for me, please. Sorry to inform you, but I've just received word that your husband has died at war. I've seen how well the job you do and your colleagues do, so I'm willing to offer you a permanent position here at our company.
I'm not sure what to say other than I will continue to work here. My family needs me now more than ever to provide for them. They say this job is just for men. As if. I'm the man of my family now.
That's the spirit, Libby. You remind me of Rosie the Riveter.
I agree with Mary. She's just like her, showing all of us perseverance we've endured during this dreadful war and independence that comes with it.
Ladies, keep up that good work. We've crushed this month's quota in just 2.5 weeks. If y'all keep this up, there won't be any jobs left for our boys when they come back home. See you. All right, so taking that little skip we did there, what sorts of vocab words did you see used and implemented in that scene? War bonds. How so?
Well, Mary was talking about buying more bonds and some of her extra income.
Right. She was using that extra income as kind of a way. She really had to look at it in a sort of economic standpoint where, I really need this income for myself and for my family, or, do I have this extra income? Maybe can I donate it to the war effort? These are like scenarios that the average American were thinking about on a daily basis, especially those with family members that were serving. They really were put in kind of between a rock and a hard place on where should I spend my time, where should I spend my money, where should I put my effort, So basically that's just kind of gives you an understanding for women's role in the workforce during the Second World War.
Can I please get the third scene participants? a little preview of scene 3. It's 1945. The wars just ended, so the men are returning home. Women at the Ford assembly line, so this is going to be in a Ford assembly line. The rest of the scenes have been. Some of the reasons why women are being forced out were seniority rules for the men that were returning. Women were voluntarily choosing to leave. Some reasons for their husbands returning so they could have their jobs back, or just other men. That kind of leads to social norms. Families weren't known for 2 income families, so the husband and the wife both weren't making money most times. It was mostly just the husband, like John said in scene 1, that women were doing more clerical work and stuff like that. And then people just thought it was going to be a temporary thing, so when the men returned, they were assuming that they were going to get their jobs back. And the vocab words that I want you to be aware of in this scene is opportunity cost, labor force rate, and then also Rosie the Riveter. In a 10-second definition, can anybody describe opportunity cost?
When you do one thing, you're giving up the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically your second best option, just like Jay said. How about labor force rate? 10-second definition. Pretty simple one. I know we're not mathematics, but it's basically just the number of people that are in the workforce. We're going to be talking about women mostly because that's what our lesson is. And then how about Rosie the Riveter? We heard a little bit about that from scene 2. 10-second definition of Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah, like the female kid working.
Yeah, just the poster and then the idea of women stepping into those male roles. So with that being said, can you guys say who you are and just a brief little description of who you are in the play?
I'm the factory owner, male factory owner.
Named Boss Man.
I'm Susie. I was single pre-war. I was a secretary pre-war, and I want to stay on the assembly line post-war.
I am Sarah. I was married before the war with 2 kids, and I did not work. And I took my husband's job when he went to the war, and I don't plan on it.
I'm Robin. I'm married without kids, and I go to work for husband.
I am Jessica. I'm young and single. During the war.
And I'm Jen. Pre-war, I was married. I didn't have any kids, and I have no job.
Yeah, and so like the picture up there is actually the Ford F-100. I know let's move it up in today's age, Ford 150s, but this is the Ford 100, and that's what they're working on this assembly line.
Hey everyone, can you guys stop what you're doing for a second so we can have a quick meeting? First of all, I'm very proud of all you for your efforts from the time this war has begun to step into roles traditionally you all have been in. With that being said, we all know our men are starting to come home and will need their jobs back. We will figure out who exactly will all be wanting their jobs back from before, or what other men will be needing jobs in the coming weeks. We will talk to each of you guys to discuss your job status. If any of you guys will be willing to step down ASAP, feel free to stop in my office at the end of the day. Thanks guys, keep up the great work.
Later that day on the line.
Hey guys, I just wanted all of you to know I'm going to step down after this week. With my husband coming back, I think it's time for him and I to start a family, and I want that to be our next step in life.
I'm so happy for you. That's awesome. We're gonna miss you so much. I plan on trying to stay on the line. I love this hard-nosed labor rather than sitting behind a desk all day. I want to stay on the line. I want to stay on the line as well. Without my husband around anymore, I'm not sure how I would support myself anymore. I just need this job. I hope the boss man understands.
Exactly. We have all worked our butts off during this job. We held up our end of this for our country and our families. We support the Rosie the Riveter idea.
It's been an honor working with you. My husband's coming home soon. I'm going to step down with kids with me at home, and we don't need a 2-earner income.
Later that week.
Ladies, like I said before, we really appreciate all you've done for us here at Ford, but we have to let some of you guys go now. Robin voluntarily left because she wanted to start a family, and Sarah voluntarily left because her husband has come back to take her spot again, and they don't need 2 incomes for their family.
Boss man, let us stay out and work. We have to support ourselves somehow, and we've gotten so good at being on the line.
I understand that, but I don't want you to put you guys in any harm, and the men deserve a chance to work because that's what they're supposed to do.
What about someone like me? I lost my husband. What am I supposed to do?
There's plenty of more traditional jobs such as teaching, domestic service, clerical work, nursing, and library science.
Just know, if we lose our jobs, there's already a group of us that's growing ready to protest.
I'm sorry, I hope it doesn't come to that, but Jessica, with you being the youngest, we're going to have to let you go. You will be able to find other work. Susie, we want you to go back to being our secretary, and you too, Jen, we're sorry for your loss.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thanks, Zach. I might have had a little Family Guy voice there. I'm not. Little Peter Griffin. A little bit. So yeah, based on that very last the line, there actually was a protest. Ford laid off thousands of women, female workers post-war. That ended up being a 400 women activist protest outside of this Highland Park Ford plant. Eventually it led to 700 women getting their jobs back from this protest. So, and this is a picture of them picketing outside of the factory. So some stats just about the women in the labor force. Pre-war, 1940, 27% of women worked on the labor force. Then the peak of it, 1945, right as the war was getting over, there was a peak of 36%. Does anybody know why this might have been in a vocabulary word, what this would describe? Vocab words are at the bottom, so labor force rate, exactly. Another point to be made, economist Claudia Golden shows that all women who entered the labor force in wartime, the majority left after 1944 and before 1950. Golden concludes that wartime work did not itself greatly increase women's employment. So what she's kind of saying is the idea of what vocab word? It's also at the bottom of the screen. Yep, exactly. So then how women had to step in for the male's roles, leading into the idea of the third vocab word, which is?
Rosie the Riveter.
So Rosie the Riveter might not have played as great as factor in the women increasing their roles. At the time, it definitely did, as you can see from 27 to 36. But the fact that the women that were part of the Rosie the Riveter movement weren't necessarily the women that stayed in the war, or stayed in the workforce post-war. They were the women that went back into doing some of their household jobs that they had before. A couple questions about the scene. Great acting, by the way, everybody. How did married women differ from single women after the war? Anybody pick them on a second?
They got booted out.
Yeah.
Because their job was to be at home with their,
exactly,
taking care of the house for the husband, making sure he had his food, making sure the kids were taken care of, all that. And at the time, it was 200 income was unheard of, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see that some of the voluntary movement, marriage bars, like John brought up at the beginning. Yeah, great answer. Another question: what were some of the reasons that women left the factory? I know Sakar just hit on one. I just brought up another one, but there was maybe one more. Exactly, yeah. But I know there was one of our characters that left, said that was the next step in their life, especially after the war. A lot of the women were kind of freaked out by the war, so they're like, I think it's time we start a family in case something else is happening. And then my final question that kind of relates to the whole, all three skits as a whole, how did Ford change their policy on women from scene 1 to scene 3? John's skit definitely hit on it first, and then by the third scene you can kind of hear it at the end.
I think the general trend was at first they were just kind of resistant to having women at all, and by the end they were sympathetic to women who needed jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, at the beginning women were not going to be able to work in the line, especially if they were married. And then by the end it was, you know, you're working hard, maybe you need to help support your family, so there's a little bit more equal opportunity for who got to work on the line. Absolutely.
All right. Again, congratulations, and thanks again for everyone that participated in the role plays. Some of you guys look like theater majors compared to social majors. So I have a little assignment. Everyone, if you could please take out a sheet of paper. You're just gonna have to write one paragraph. You're gonna pick one of these questions above, and you're gonna try to associate 3 vocabulary words for one of the questions. So question 1, what role or influence did World War II have on the United States workforce? What permanent economic changes did the U.S. see at the conclusion of World War II? And then question 2 is, explain in detail the impact that women made before, during, and after the war. What sorts of social movements or social shifts took place as a result of World War II? You can work with a group member while you're doing this, but you guys can all keep your answers on your own sheet. So.
And make sure you incorporate at least 3 of those vocab words.
And we will pull up the vocab words so you guys can look at them again too. But yeah, talk with your neighbor next to you. Which question you want to do, maybe bounce ideas off each other, and then just answer it on your own. Then we'll walk around if you guys have any questions. Let us know when you're ready for the vocab words today. We'll start with, so you get your question down, and then we'll go back to the vocab words so you can help incorporate 3 of those in.
Is everybody finished with the questions, or you still need a little more time? Take that as a still need a little more time. Just checking.
Was that supposed to change my mind?
I don't know. I just think strawberries good.
I just come here and just harass the whole time I'm here.
You guys ready for the vocab words? No, not ready yet.
It was like a chunk of people. I don't think they still like it, but it's just like, oh, we can offer a little bit more.
And you just have to do one of the questions. You don't have to do both.
And you can do both if you want to get extra practice.
Time in there, you know, maybe.
You can go to the vocab.
Vocab?
Yeah.
Alright.
Oh. That was too fast.
As long as you understand the question, it doesn't really matter if you got the whole question written down on your paper or not, just if it says question 1 or 2. And yeah, make sure you put your names on it, because at the end of class, you guys will be turning these in for points.
Are there any Cheerios in this? No. No Cheerios. No Cheerios this time. What's the scarcity of Cheerios from this time?
That you understand those concepts rather than the other way, so we just stick to it in there. It's more workshop.
Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions over here, guys? Again, the important thing is if you can specifically add one of those vocab words, what we're trying to get at is basically that to know that you guys have an idea of what's going on. So as long as you can articulate that you know without actually like quoting them directly, if that makes sense.
guys basically another 2.5 minutes or so, and then we're just gonna bring it all together to the collective and kind of share some of these ideas that we wrote down to make sure that you guys really have a full grasp of all the concepts and ideas that we talked about today. So, another 2 minutes. And again, you know, it's more important that we see from your responses and from the group discussions that you guys understand all the like vocab and understand these concepts, ideas, rather than specifically making sure that you have all of them in there. If they're covered and they're in their paragraph form, then that's fine.
You guys only need a paragraph, so. I see some long pages getting written right now. Well, I like it, but just saying, you only need a paragraph.
You could write for days on it, you could, honestly.
Mr. Conlon was gonna make you guys write a whole page.
Yeah, he was.
Just saying.
These are concepts you gotta learn, folks.
How many words did you say?
Three vocab.
That's HST with 3 vocab words.
Was it?
Single space.
Yeah.
Single space.
No spaces.
Really? 12 on.
All right, time's about up. If you're still writing, you can keep writing. But if we could get some people to now give me what you said for either question 1 or question 2, and we can kind of expand on it from other people. If someone feels willing to kind of read a little bit about the response or what they said,
Or what vocab words they use in their
Yeah.
response and how they used them.
And if no one volunteers, I'll pick someone. In 5. All right, let's hear it.
I said that the war had a huge impact on the workforce, and the labor need was extremely desperate, so propaganda like Rosie the Riveter came out to encourage women to join the workforce. But as far as permanence goes, it was very temporary. As soon as the war was over, it just kind of went back to the way things were, if not maybe even a little worse, as far as women involvement, because of that direct correlation with if you are married, you have one job, and that is to make the home and have kids.
Absolutely.
yeah, like just like with that, like imagine the women that were working for all the years in the war, and then the men come back and take their jobs, and they have no experience whatsoever doing that position. Imagine the production rate compared to the first year they're back compared to when the women were at their peak. Anyone else can expand on that, or if they wrote anything similar, a little bit different?
Or even if someone answered a different question as well.
We got a couple minutes.
I got the same first part, the scarcity of labor and all that. But I was thinking that the GDP would go up. I mean, like insanely up because government spending, and then also, you know, you got more people in the workforce then because you got soldiers and you got the women working in the workforce, more money in the economy. I would think it'd probably change it.
Yeah, for sure.
Permanently that way.
Yeah, there were actually like Ford Motors, they didn't care how much money they were making off these products. They were just doing their part for the war, and they were pumping this stuff out. They didn't care how much money they were getting in return. And that was just the ideology at that time. Like there was a group of miners that protested because of the amount of work that was needed to keep up with production for the war. They ended up protesting. Well, then newspapers ended up condemning them, saying they were traitors. And that's just kind of the mentality. Like, you had to put this work in, and you did it because we are in it together. This is our war.
Right.
That was just the mentality at that time.
Yeah, like what you're saying there, that like rally behind the flag effect.
Yeah, it was
that's what I like tied in with mine on question 2. Because like at the time when all the men left, there was like that scarcity, so like the women like filled those roles because it was needed. So they're like everyone in the country just kind of like band together to like try and help out the country.
Exactly. Yes.
For question 2, I kind of centered my explanation around.
You can keep at it.
I kind of talked. I talked about marriage bars being in direct opposition to propaganda like Rosie the Riveter, and so I kind of talked about how social shifts are like finicky, and so you don't have both. It's either, you know, you're a woman, we don't need you, versus you're a woman, we need you, and then it's you're a woman, we don't need you. So that's kind of what I talked about.
It's pretty interesting too is the fact that these women that were taking on these roles really also were playing a positive role in society in influencing more women, younger generations of women, like women of the 60s and of the 70s, to fully get out there and have that sort of liberating feeling to their personality in life. So thank you guys for all your participation.
Good job, thanks again.
And we'll see you in the next